Dr. Parveen Babar. I am Deputy Librarian at Jawaharlal University. Today we will be discussing the topic of staffing patterns in the libraries. Basically, when we say staffing is one of the important areas in the library management, and generally it's called for is also known as the personal management or human resource management, or it is also known as for the hiring of the staff. It involves the process of acquiring, deploying, or retaining the staff for the libraries. So, there is a staffing department in the libraries which is associated with the work of orientation. It is related to the training. It is related to the retention and termination of the services of the staff. So, if we see the previous persons who have given the definitions of the staffing, there is a renowned personnel has given the definition. It is Kunz and O'Donnell. He has defined the staffing as the managerial function, which involves staffing. It's basically the maneuvering the organizational structure through proper and effective selection, involves the appraisal and the development of personnel to fill the roles designed into the structures. So the basic factor in the staffing is that we have to make the managerial function of as staffing. McFarnell defines it as staffing as the function by which managers build an organization through the recruitment, through risk selection, and further the development of individuals as capable employees. So the staffing basically relates to the engaging of the persons, engaging of the officers, engaging of the staff in the libraries. So why staffing is required? Because the simple reasons of staffing in the organization or in the libraries is that staffing helps us in discovering and obtaining the competent personnel for the organization. It improves the quality and the quantity of the output by hiring the right person for the right job. So if we have the right person and the right for the right job, the services will be perfectly given to the users. It also helps in the higher productive performance for the employers and higher job satisfaction for the employees. It also reduces the cost of the personnel by avoiding the wastage of human resources. Since we are taking the staff whichever is required, which is essentially required, so the cost automatically comes down through this. And obviously, the continuous survival and growth of the organization through development of employees is the essential part. That is why the staffing is required. When we speak about the staffing in libraries, there are a number of factors which are required to be defined, like number of qualified staff required, identifying and fixing job descriptions, what will be the job of the library staff which we are hiring, how we have to analyze and evaluate their job activities, that is important factor of the staffing. Then we have to develop the norms for motivation and staff factors, like once they have been engaged, how we can motivate them further for the services, and how we can develop their skills and other upbringings later at the later stages. Then obviously after a certain stage there are changes, so shift in the nature of the job is important, where the staffing is a very important criteria. When we come to the libraries, there are different kind of staffing patterns in the libraries. The first one is that we have the professional staff. Second one is the paraprofessional staff. Third one is the non-professional staff, and fourth is the technical staff, which is supporting the basically the administrative staff. When we say the professional staff, at the first stage, professional staff is a very well qualified and trained staff in library and information science, and who can manage the library independently with the responsibility. Under this category, the different position, assistant librarian and the professional assistant are included. The personnel of this cadre are heading the departments or the sections. They are basically the headers, heading the sections. They are the main persons who take care of the sections of the libraries in the larger particularly when we talk about for the large, they help and do the activities with the help of the professional, paraprofessional staff like professional assistants. And these professional staffs are very well qualified and having different professional skills. Second is the paraprofessional staff, which is also known as semi-professional staff. In this category, the library assistants, catalogers, classifiers, indexers, library clerks are covered, and they have a little bit less qualification than the professional staff. Like if the professional staff is masters or is MPhil and PhD, the professional semi-professional staff can be of DLib or MLib, so MLIs in library science. So these are basically having less qualification and are basically the graduates. The task carried out by this group is of managing the acquisition functions, organization of the library, processing functions of the documents in the library, providing information services under the supervision of the professional staff. They basically are under the supervision of the professional staff. Third category is the non-professional staff, which is the administrative staff in the libraries. This category of staff is supporting the staff, basically the support staff, and helps in undertaking the administrative jobs like we have stenographers in the libraries, clerical work related jobs, or managing the correspondence by the MTS, multitasking staffs, and these kind of professionals, paraprofessionals in the libraries. Fourth is the technical staff, which is supporting the administrative staff of the library. In this category, the functions like Xeroxing, operations of different machines, or maintaining equipments like you have scanners, you have other kind of equipments in the libraries which are required in the daily use of the daily use by the users. So technical staff can support in these kind of activities. Coming again to the professional staff, we can discuss it in detail. The professional staff positions include the university librarian. Basically, in the when we talk about the universities, it is the librarian or the university librarian. Then we have deputy librarian. Then we have assistant librarian. Then the professional assistant. In colleges, if we talk about, we have the college librarian and the professional assistant. Some of the basic jobs undertaken by the professional staffs include library administration and planning. They are involved with the planning of the library activities, whatever the functioning, the library, the committees have to be designed, the library advisory committees have to be designed, and decisions have to be taken. So these positions staff do all these kind of activities. Then there are the activities involved like correction development, where we have the acquisition of the resources. These resources are to be acquired, where there is a active role of deputy librarian and assistant librarians in the collection development of the libraries. Then we have classification and cataloging. When we require the resources, we need to classify those resources and catalog those resources. So these professional staff do all those kind of activities. They assist in these kind of activities of classification and cataloging. There are special sections in the libraries like technical section where the classification and cataloging work is done. So a assistant librarian can be engaged with the professional staff like professional assistant. Then we have indexing and abstracting services, which are very important in the libraries, which are being conducted by the professional staff. They are the specialized services for the users, involve basically a very niche kind of activities. So indexing and extracting can be done by the professional staff. We have then reference services and information services, which are conducted by the reader services section, and they involve a lot of intellectuality in it, where the higher management or higher level of professional staff is required. So these kind of activities are done by them. Then IT based services at present in the digital world or digital libraries, the IT based services are very important, where the professional staff like deputy librarian or assistant librarian or professional assistants are engaged in these kind of activities. Then is the paraprofessional staff, which is the supporting the technical, or they can be compared to the paramedical staff employed in the hospitals. Like paraprofessionals can be compared to the medical staff. Like we have nurses with the doctors, or technicians with the doctors engaged. They do the paraprofessional activities. They basically possess a certificate or diploma or undergraduate certificate in the library science, at least for a duration of 1 academic year. So that is the basic the qualification of the paraprofessional staff to, or they must have the passed this senior secondary examination. The jobs related to the paraprofessional staff include preparation of the book selection slips after the items have been marked. Like they need to do the shelving, pasting and labeling of the books. They need to put the selection slips in the books, etc. They can do the assist in helping the professional staffs with accessioning of the books and other documents. They can do the registration of the periodicals, whatever the periodicals are coming in the library, their entry, their accessioning for the bound volumes can paraprofessional staff. Then additional activities like cataloging card preparations, which was done earlier, but now the entries in the systems can be done. Whatever the LMS or library management system is being procured, there we need to do the cataloging entry. They can do the bibliographic work, do the documentation processing lists. They can do the volume numbering work, like jackets inside the volumes, tagging, date, table numbering, etc. These all kind of activities are basically done by the support staffs or the para professional staff. Charging and discharging of the books and periodicals at the reader's desk is done by the paraprofessional staff. Maintenance of the issue records. Then we have interlibrary loan activities which are being done in the reader services. So they can assist in those kind of interlibrary loan activities, that maintaining of the records they can do. Then shelving of the documents, very important that the shelving is totally done by the paraprofessional staff, that whatever the books have been newly procured, then those are to be shelved, or the books which have been moved out are to be reshelved, requires the shelving. So these activities are done by the paraprofessional staff. Then preparation of the books and periodicals for binding is done by the paraprofessional staff, and stock taking activities are supported by the paraprofessional staffs. Now, if we see these two major categories are there, the professionals and the paraprofessionals. There is a set formula given by Dr. Ranganathan to define how the library will have the staffing in the libraries. So Dr. S.R. Ranganathan, in his book Library Administration, second edition, in 1935, he gave this formula. This can help the libraries in defining how much staff is required, what will be the number of professional staffs which are required in the library, what are the number of non-professional staff, paraprofessional supporting staff required, what are the unskilled staff or administrative staff number is required in the libraries. So if we see the formula for the professional staff patron, there is it has been defined as SB plus SC plus SL plus SM plus SP plus SR and plus ST. So combining these all, S stands for the staff, these staff, the number of professional staff comes into together. Now SB here means number of persons in the book selection, involved in the book selection. When we say SC, the number of the persons or staff involved in the circulation section. C stands for the circulation section. SL in L stands here for the librarian and the deputy librarians. They are the at the top level number of librarians or deputy librarians we are engaging with. SM in that M stands for the management section, the number of staff being engaged in the management section. Then we have SR, number of persons in reference section. R is for reference section, and ST. T stands here for the technical staff that is involved with the classification and cataloging in the library. So all together comes as, when we make a sum of it or total of it, we will get the professional staff number. Now, how these numbers SB, SC are calculated, we will see in next slide. But before that, let me tell you how we calculate with the non-professional skill staff. The formula given by Dr. Ranganathan is B divided by 30,000 plus S divided by 100. B here is books divided by 30,000 plus S is staff divided by 100. If we do this, like a library has 60,000 books, so 60,000 divided by 30,000 is 2. That means 2 staff, plus if we have 202 total staff divided by 100, so 2 plus 2, 4. That means 4 non-professional staff is required in the library. Unskilled staff can be also calculated. Dr. Ranganathan has given the formula as SB, the number of persons in the book section divided by 4 plus SC, that is number of persons in the circulation section divided by 2 plus number of persons as librarian and deputy librarians plus number of persons in the maintenance section divided by 4 plus number of staff in the periodical section, that is SP, divided by 2. Then number of staff in, or number of persons in the reference section or readers section divided by 8 plus A is for acquisition, acquired number of books divided by 20,000 plus D divided by 500 plus B divided by 60,000 plus staff divided by 100 in further divided by 4 plus V, that is the volumes, divided by the 30,000. So this is the way the unskilled staff will come into the number. It's a long formula, but it has been defined, and it gives very accurate figures for getting the unskilled staff. When we get the explanation, or as I told, that how these are being calculated, when we say number of persons in the book section, which is SB, how it is calculated? It is calculated by SB is equal to A divided by 6,000. Now A here stands for number of books accessioned in a year divided by 6,000. When we say SC, which is number of persons in circulation section, it is calculated by SC is equal to G divided by 1500. G here stands for number of gate hours for a year divided by 1500. 1 gate hour is kept open for 1 hour. So when we say 1 gate hour, 1 gate at a time for 1 hour only. Now number of librarian and deputy librarians, which is SL, how we calculate is HW divided by 1500. Here HW is defined by number of hours library is kept open in a day into number of working days in a year. When taken together, we reach to HW, and we divided it by 1500. So we will get the number of persons engaged as librarian and deputy librarians. So generally the librarian is one and his deputies can be multiple. When we talk about the SM, the number of persons in the maintenance section, it is A divided by 3000. A here stands for number of volumes accession in a year divided by 3000. Now, SP is the periodical section. As we know, the number of persons engaged in the periodical section, it is P divided by 500, which is number of periodicals currently taken in the library divided by 500. Now, after that, we have number of persons in the reference section, which is SR. So, R divided by 50 and multiplied by W divided by 250. Here, R is number of readers per day, which we have to divide by 50 and multiply it by number of working days in a year divided by 250. ST, when we talk about ST, number of persons in the technical, that is classification and cataloging section, it is A plus 40D divided by 200. A is, as I told, that number of volumes accessioned in a year, plus we have to plus with 40 and multiply it by number of periodicals abstracted in a year divided by 2000. That will give us the number of the technical staff which is required for the classification and cataloging. Here in the last slide we had B, which was there, which stands for annual budget allocation allotment in the rupees. For S, number of seats for readers. A stands for the number of volumes accessioned in a year. D stands for number of periodicals abstracted and indexed in a year, and V stands for the number of volumes in the year. So when we were taking the formula SB, here after that there was D divided by 500, B divided by 60,000, S divided by 100, and V divided by 30,000. We mean A as number of volumes accessioned in a year, D is the number of periodicals abstracted and indexed in a year, V is the number of volumes in the year in the libraries, S stands for the number of seats for the readers. So this is how the total staffing is calculated in the libraries. This is basically a staff pattern for the public libraries. Dr. Ranganathan has given a staff formula for the public libraries, which was further given by the Krishna Kumar's book in 1987. It showed that book selection requires, for the book selection in the public libraries, when we talk about the public libraries, there is a requirement of one person for every 6,000 volumes added in a year. If we talk about the periodical section of the public library, we require one person for every 1,000 periodicals currently taken in the library, that is public library. Then for classification and cataloging section, we require one person for every 2,000 volumes added per year. Maintenance section requires one person for every 2,000 volumes added in a year, and one person for 50,000 volumes in the library for maintaining the total collection. So this is how it has been defined for the maintenance section, for the administrative section, reference section, circulation section, and supervisory section, that how much staff is required in the public libraries. Similarly, in the similar way, the staffing pattern of academic libraries have been defined, that for book selection, one person for every 6,000 volumes added in a year. Similar is case for the periodical publications. For every 500 current per publication taken, one person is required. For the documentation section, one person for every 1,000 entries prepared in a year, we require one documentation officer. In the technical section, for one person for every 2,000 volumes added in a year is required. Similarly, for maintenance section, administrative section, reference section, circulation section, supervisory and unskilled staff requirement, we have a set formula defined for the academic libraries, which has been given by Dr. Ranganathan. When we see the staff pattern in various academic institutions, the university library has, as I told, that there is a university librarian, deputy librarian, assistant librarian. Under that, there is a professional assistant. After that, there is a semi-professional assistant, and after that, the supporting staff like library attendant or multi-tasking staff like MTS of the library is here, and then we have the supporting staff, non-library professionals in the cadre, which counts. So this is the hierarchy of the university librarian. If we go for the college library, there is a college librarian. Then we don't have the deputy or assistant librarians. The college librarian itself is equivalent to the assistant librarian, and under that we have the professional assistant, semi-professional assistant, and after that we have library attendant, MTS library, and supporting staff in the college library. School library, there is a school librarian. He can be of the level of the assistant librarian, or he can be level of the professional assistant. It depends upon the school to school, but generally when we see about the government schools like ABS and daily subordinate school services and other state government schools, it is a level of the professional assistant or a little bit higher in that scale. Then we have the assistant librarian in case of this senior secondary or secondary school. The designation assistant has been given, but the position is near to the semi-professional assistant of a college librarian or a university. Then we have the library attendant, MTS in the school library, and the supporting staff in the school library. Staffing involves the qualification of the academic staff or non-academic staff. If we discuss about what are the qualifications of a qualified staff in the library, a university librarian at present requires to have a master degree in the library information science or documentation science with 55% marks or equivalent grade point at the grading scale. He must have 10 years experience as the librarian or any kind of has a teaching experience of assistant or associate professor in library science. He can be have a 10 years experience of as a deputy librarian, or he can have experience of assistant librarian. Then he must show the evidence of innovative library services, that he has implemented ICT applications in various kind of institutions in the past. So that he has to give the evidence, and he must have a PhD degree in library information science or documentation or archives. So this is what a university librarian of a university requires to have as his qualifications. A deputy librarian requires the qualification of the master degree with 55% marks in library information science. He must have 8 years experience as assistant librarian or college librarian, or he can be have the teaching experience of as assistant professor of 8 years experience. He can become a deputy librarian. He also has to show the evidence of innovative ICT implementations in the past, and he must have a PhD degree. He or she must have a PhD degree in library information science to become a deputy librarian. The assistant librarian is the basic level where the academic level of the qualification is required. A assistant librarian or college librarian requires the qualification of master degree with 55% in library information science. He must have a good academic record and knowledge of computerization, and he requires to have a NET. NET is the national eligibility test conducted by the UGC, which one is required to appear and qualify. After that, only one can become a university assistant librarian or a college librarian. When we talk about the paraprofessional staff or the professional assistant, the professional assistant requires the qualification of AMLIB with 50% marks in plus, or he can be a postgraduate in art, science and commerce with at least 50% marks, or he can be having a master degree in art, science, commerce with 50%, and also a degree of bachelor in library information science with 50% marks. So either or one qualification is required. Either he requires to be a master degree in library information science with a postgraduate degree, or he or she can have the master degree in arts and science plus BLib or BLIS with 50%. Coming down to the semi-professional staff assistants, he or she he should be a graduate in arts, science or commerce with 50% marks. He can be BLib, he has to be a BLib or BLib science with 50% marks. He requires to have a computer science application course, a 6 months course from a recognized institute to become a semi-professional assistant. Then comes the library assistant, who comes under the semi-professional assistant. He requires to be a senior secondary passed out. He or she needs to be a certificate in library information science. A certificate diploma is required. Certificate or diploma is required in library information science from a recognized institution, and some computer course at the level of senior secondary with the skills like word processing is required at the stage of the library assistant. After that, the library clerk or library attendant, at this level, the qualification is that he or she requires to be passed with senior secondary or equivalent examination from any board of education, government recognized institution. He or she need to be a certificate in library information science, and he or she is desirable that they have the knowledge of computers with a little bit knowledge of word processing as it was required in the case of library assistant. In the academic stuff, there is a school librarian also. So school librarian qualification is bachelor degree in the library information science, and there is an essential requirement that experience of 2 years in library, working as in the library with the computerization, or in lieu of that, if he doesn't have the experience, he or she may have 1 year certificate course in computer application in from a recognized institute is the requirement to become a school librarian. These on the slide you can see the various pay scales are given at various positions in the libraries. A university librarian is in the scale of academic level of 14. As we are talking about the current scales, it comes under 37,400 to 67,000 scale, and the grade pay of the university librarian is grade pay is 10,000. This is according to the latest 7CP 7 Pay Commission regulations. The scales are defined. For deputy librarian, there is academic level of 13A and academic level of 12. As per the selection grades, the grade pay is 9,000 or 8,000. Assistant librarian, senior scale or assistant librarian who has just joined is in academic level of 10 and 11 with the grade pay of 6,000 and 7,000. The professional staff in the libraries or college libraries, university libraries is in the grade pay level of 6 with grade pay of 4,200. The semi-professional assistant is at level of 5 with the grade pay of 2,800. The pays are defined, the pay scales are defined in between. Like the semi-professional pay scale is 29,200 to 92,300. Similar is the case for the library assistant, clerk, library attendant, MTS. There are 3 levels: level 1, 2, 3, at which they are defined. The MTS is at level 1. The library clerk attendant is at level 2. Library assistant is at level 3. The scale of the school librarian is he or she is at level 7. So the grade pay of the school librarian is 4,600, which is higher than the professional assistant of a college librarian, which was 4,200. There are various library positions in central government, state government libraries also. I have not discussed their qualifications, but we can see the scales given over here. There are different set of qualifications required. They can be master degree, they can be bachelor degree requirement. As per the designations, they are basically in the non-professional, non-academic categories, and are designated like SLIO, ALIO, which means Senior Library Information Officer or Assistant Librarian Information Officer, or they can be defined as librarian and information assistants. There are various kind of cadres and various kind of nomenclatures have been given in the government libraries for these kind of positions. The senior library information officer is in the grade pay of in the level of 12 with grade pay of 7,600. Similar is the case for assistant library officer. He is in the level of 7 with grade pay of 4,600. In addition to that, we have great pace of the health ministry, health professionals which are working in the health organizations as the library professionals over there. The great pay of the chief librarian, which has been designated as the head of the librarian, is chief librarian. The scale is level 13 with grade pay of 8700. There are various grades being given in the Ministry of Health, like librarian grade 1, librarian grade 2, librarian grade 3. The levels automatically comes from level 7, 6, 5, 4. These kind of the structures are there in the pay scales of the positions in the Health Ministry. There has been a lot of changing patterns in the staffing. As you can see in the figure given on the screen, there is a librarian at the top. Then we have deputy librarians. They can be deputy librarian of the administration. There can be deputy librarian of the collection development. At the later, as I told, this is for changing pattern. Today, we at present times we are keeping it deputy librarian for IT based services, where a lot of IT is involved because we are moving in the digital world. We have digital libraries. The academic libraries are also part of digital and virtual worlds. Even the government libraries, health department libraries, or other kind of libraries, our school libraries are moving towards the IT based services. So there are a lot of services which are required to be performed for these we need to have various kind of support services from the staff. Like we need to have digital acquisition of ebooks and e-periodicals. We need to have digital processing assistant management, digital online services, online reference desks are required, online library literacy services are required, professional development is required for the database management of the institutional repositories are being made these days. So these kind of services are required. So special sections are being defined now with older sections like it was administration, collection development, periodical section, reader services section. So we are defining with the IT based services and the staffing pattern is now changing for it. So we are coming to the conclusion of this all what we have discussed by this now, that there is a set pattern, there are set formulas which are being defined in the libraries. Dr. Ranganathan has given those staffing formulas, formula for defining the what kind of staffing is required in the libraries. But still we are required to review the existing library staff requirements from time to time. As the time is changing, the staffing formulas are also changing. Those formulas given by Dr. Ranganathan are being modified now, as we don't have those services, but new services are coming up. So new nomenclatures of the library staff is also coming up. We need to identify the areas of the workload not accurately reflected in the current formulas. That means that those areas which are not defined in the previous staff formulas are to be included. We need to analyze the impact of IT and digital library era of library staffing needs, that these IT based services are to be included in the new staffing patterns. Then we need to analyze the requirements of workload of library professionals for providing better users IT based online services. A complete revision of the staff formula and pattern based on the digital environment is required at present time, but the base formula remains the same. The staffing pattern remains the same. Only what changes is that we need to add and modify and remove those staffing patterns which are not now functional. So this is how the staffing pattern of the libraries is defined. I hope you were able to grasp these staffing patterns. Please go through the formulas and try calculating these formulas on your own, so that you can define a library of your own by seeing what kind of staffing pattern is designed. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you.